All right, Brett, welcome to Renna's Corner Conversations. Thanks so much for joining us. I feel like it was a really interesting way that we connected. So I don't know if you know the entire thing, but I decided to start sharing with people that know Renna directly or indirectly about Renna's Corner Conversations. So I sent out some emails and I just said, hey, I'm starting something fun. Um, if you want to check it out, or if you want to share it with anyone who might find some value, or if you know someone that would be a good guest on Renna's Corner Conversations. And one of the librarians in Renna's school district recommended I reach out to you. So I did, and we've been chatting a little bit, and what you're doing sounds amazing. And I can't wait for Ren and I to come visit at the end of this month. Um, but if you just want to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about what you're doing. I'm not going to ruin the surprise, but I'm just super excited. And I really hope that things like this really start appearing in more and more and more places. So go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Brenda. It's wonderful to meet you. I'm glad my colleague in the school library connected us, and thank you so much for having me on Renna's Corner Conversations. I was watching some of the videos on Facebook, and this is really a wonderful service to the community. I think it helps spark ideas among other families about resources they can utilize and things they can do around Berks County.
Yep.
And so my name is Brett Spencer, and I am the father of an adult nonverbal son with autism. And my wife and I, Danielle, we take care of him. He's at home with us on a Pennsylvania consolidated waiver. And he is an awesome human being, and I've learned a lot from him. When he was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5, the person who diagnosed him said that he was one of the most sensory driven people that she had ever met. He was constantly seeking out sources of stimuli, trying to
Right.
modulate his environment to meet his sensory needs. And throughout his we and I think y'all are probably not surprised in the audience to find out, or I'm not originally from Pennsylvania, as you might be able to tell by my accent.
Yep.
My wife and I grew up in the deep South, the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and then we lived in Alabama, where Trent was diagnosed with autism. And in Alabama, we had a lot of negative experiences in the school system and in the community.
Mm.
And one thing that helped our son was when he was placed in a school called Sprayberry, and they had sensory rooms. And sensory rooms are rooms that allow someone to modulate stimuli. They allow you to turn up certain stimuli in the environment or turn down certain stimuli and to select from an array of different stimuli.
Mm.
And we'll go on a virtual tour as we were talking before the video of the sensory room at Penn State Berks. But the sensory rooms had really benefited him. He loves to fidget. He loves to spin. He loves lots of music
Renna
and
too.
lots of
That's where she is now, music therapy.
that's wonderful. We were
Yep, that's why
talking
my background's a
earlier.
little
Yes.
different. Yep.
What is Rena's favorite instrument? Did she have a favorite?
So I feel like she really enjoys the guitar.
Oh,
She's been in music therapy since about age 3. She's 6 now, and she's always been allowed to strum the guitar. And so it's interesting if we're at events and there's live music, if it's down on her level, if it's on a stage, that's a different story. But if it's on her level, she wants to get to the guitar. So I would say that's probably her favorite. Um, she She can drum a little bit, but she likes the guitar, I think.
That's awesome. Yeah, Trent, his favorite is the drum. He also likes the xylophones. He likes percussion instruments a lot, and he likes the kabasa that you can shake or you can roll it
Yep.
up and down your arm. He loves that. It's a kind of
Renna
a
liked
double
it
sensory
too.
treat. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
they utilized one here in the past. I don't know. Her music therapist has changed maybe a year and a half ago, and I haven't seen it in these sessions. But yeah, she would like sing a song about it and roll it. Yep, Renna
Kind
loved
of a
that.
double sensory treat. The sound, the clicking sound the kabasa makes,
Yeah.
and
If
the
people don't,
tactile sensation of it.
yeah, if people don't know what it is, I'll be looking it up now because
Yes, I was
I've
going to
never
say.
heard of it.
Yeah, I was going to say if it's okay, I'll send a link to some. I'm sure you have some too online that you could put on the YouTube description,
Oh,
maybe
good idea.
so people
Yeah.
can see what a kibasa is.
Yeah.
But yeah, music is a wonderful stimuli. So a
Mhm.
sensory room is a place where you can select music, select from a array of stimuli to help meet your own sensory needs.
Mhm.
And they've always helped Trent throughout his life. And so I mentioned our story. We were in Alabama. Trent was, we were struggling with the school systems there a lot of times. But then we eventually had a bubble created around him. What I mean by bubble is he ended up, even though Alabama's school system is pretty, pretty rough, he ended up having a great teacher, a great speech therapist, a great principal, a great um, classroom aide all at the same time, and they became like family to him.
Mhm.
And he had them for several years, and he seemed to make a lot of progress with being very communicative through his augmentative communication device. You probably a lot of people in the audience probably know what PECs are, picture exchange system, and he was using a tablet to press buttons that would say the word for him a lot of times too. Then all of those people had to leave for various reasons, and his life fell apart.
Yeah.
And my wife started doing research on states that are better to live in if you have disabilities or you have autism. And guess what one of the states was that came up?
Well, I'm
Pens
glad I'm in this state then, right?
Pennsylvania, and also is
Yeah.
having a reasonable cost of living. And
Mhm.
so my wife, through her mom, has ancestry in Pennsylvania, has had veterans who have fought for the Commonwealth in various wars, but we had never lived up here.
Yeah.
And so I resigned from the University of Alabama where I was working, and we moved up here, and we were able to start to function again because it had gotten so bad in Alabama, Trent couldn't even attend school really there. He was
Mhm.
being allowed to elope from the school a lot.
Mhm.
And so we came up here, and the public schools often pay for uh, students to go to private schools if that's what the IEP team thinks is best for the student. And we thought that was a good option for Trent, and he went to various private schools for autism in
Mhm.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I think
And
it's if the public school can't support the child's needs, then they have to, well, I guess have to, um, send to and pay for a private school. Yeah, I've never actually Renna's not there. She's doing really great in like mainstream. She is in an autistic support classroom, but she integrates a lot with her peers and she is super social. You will see when you meet her, she will be all over that sensory room. Um, but yeah, I
that's
never heard that somebody took that opportunity because they weren't getting what they needed in the public school. So good to know that that is actually a thing, not just a fairy tale that I hear about.
us. So we had that for several years, and so those schools a lot of times had sensory rooms too, and we created one in our house too. And so a couple of years ago, my wife was saying, why don't you make a sensory room at where you work? And so I work as a librarian at Penn State Berkstoon Library here in Wyomissing. I was really grateful to be offered a job here when I was leaving Alabama. So I work in the Toon Library, and my wife suggested creating a sensory room in our library for Penn State Berks students to use. And so that's how the sensory room behind me came about. And we created it in a private study room at the back of our hallway. And I'll take us on that virtual tour in just a moment. But that's kind of how I came to be here in Berks County and how Trent came to be here. And so I created this, my wife and I created this sensory room along with a couple of my coworkers, and we'll take a look at that when we're ready.
All right. And now, when did you move to Pennsylvania? Like what year? How old was Trent?
So he at that time was um, close, about 16, 17, and it was about 2014, late 2014.
Okay.
We moved when winter was just starting, and for us from the South, that was a very unsensory friendly
Oh
experience.
yeah.
I had never seen snow like that would actually stay on the ground. You know, it's a rare thing in the deep South, but
Hmm.
that was kind of a hard, hard adjustment sensory wise for us. But we'll take Pennsylvania's winters over Alabama and Mississippi's hurricanes and tornadoes any day. Those are horrific
Yeah.
ordeals. So,
Yeah. We don't have well, we get warnings for some of those things, but nothing like there. Yeah. Okay. So about 12 years ago. So I'm just wondering the time frame because I feel like sensory room is just something that seems to be newer, but also kind of from your description, people just say sensory room. But is what they've created actually a sensory room? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
what makes a sensory room actually a sensory room and just a room with some toys that spin and light up and the lights are low? You know what I mean? What's the
Yeah.
actual difference?
Yeah, so it's a very broad, loose definition. Like, I don't know of many associations or places that will define this is exactly what a sensory room is, and you must have these seven elements,
Yeah.
etc. So, yeah, it's basically a room dedicated to helping people uh, optimize their stimuli, find their preferred stimuli in order to help them either turn their energy down, that is, relax and reduce sensory overload, or turn it up. Maybe they're hyposensitive. We talk about hypersensitive. That means that you're averse to a certain stimuli. You want less of it. So, for example, some people want less sunlight. They like dark environments. Then there's hyposensitive, where you crave stimuli. And my son has a lot of hyposensitivities. And
Can you have
so,
both? Where, like,
yes. Yeah.
maybe you don't like the loud sound, but you love the bright lights or you love music, but you don't
Yes.
like loud voices. Because I feel like that's what Renna's starting to show us. Renna can't speak
Yes.
with words like your son. So, and she's not to the point of being able to isolate her finger and utilize her AAC device yet. Um, but I've noticed when people are talking very loud around her, that she like does this and she'll do that. And then she'll start pouting. She'll go, and then if it doesn't stop within seconds, she'll go, "Ah," and she never cries. Like she only cries when she's sick or really, really hurt. And
Brandon is the
so,
same way. He's the same way. It's
yeah,
sick or he's really in pain. So it scares us when he cries. It's like, oh,
yeah,
he is
something
in.
is wrong and we need to take her to the urgent care. Like,
Right, exactly.
yep.
Exactly. And just
Yeah.
kind of on a side note, urgent cares and emergency rooms are starting to have more sensory friendly areas or mobile sensory units. I know
Mhm.
the last time we were at Reading Hospital with Trent, This was for a seizure, I believe he had had. They wheeled in a giant machine that made bubbles, played music, had light strips on it that you could play with, light strings on it too. So they can now hospitals are realizing, okay, if we have these mobile sensory units that can help us uh, support children and adults who might need some sensory input to distract or help them cope with pain. Yeah.
Wow. Huh.
So, but yeah, so there's hyper and hypo, and it's very common. People with autism or ADHD, or anybody can have, has hypo to certain things and hyper to the other.
Okay.
Trent likes to meet his hyposensitivity needs by wanting to go on long van rides with the music as loud as it can be. So if you see a blue or white van going around Berks County with the windows down, the music up loud in the middle of the night, that may very well be us.
We'll probably be sleeping. Ren is a good sleeper. Yeah, she likes car rides too, which everyone's like, oh, she's going to sleep in the car on the way home. I'm like, no, she will not. She's exhausted, but she will not sleep in the car. I don't know why. I feel like it's a sensory thing that she's seeking, I guess, based on what you said, versus, I don't know, like it doesn't calm
Yes,
her. It keeps her awake,
yes,
and she loves
yeah. I feel like with automobiles, they give the sensation of motion. I think Trent likes the sensation of motion and the slight hum and rattle of the engine, as well as the music booming and all the sights outside passing him by and wind blowing in his face. That's a mega sensory experience, I think. And we think that Trent has something called hypokinesia, where he has these times where he really wants to be in motion. He wants his
it.
body to be in motion a lot, and so maybe car rides kind of meet that need sometimes.
Yeah, I wonder if that's why Renna has a hard time sitting still. She
Yeah,
really does.
yeah,
Hmm.
I'd love to hear if anybody out there in the audience can think of ways to simulate car rides at home. I'd love to hear from you. We
Right?
tried we tried playing YouTube videos on a big screen TV where he's driving through New York City, or it has the radio on. So, that would be nice to have a drive simulator in our home. It'd be
Yeah, right.
nice
You need
to
one
have.
of those like vibrating boards. Do you know what I'm
Yes,
talking about? Like
right,
that,
right.
and then put some like get an old car, like a literal car seat, put it on
Yeah.
this thing, and then just put it in front of the TV and it'd be like a car.
I thought about going to a junkyard or something, looking for a car seat with a seat belt, and yeah, to make it like he's in a car. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. You could create that, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's so interesting because I know Renna, but I am not an expert. I am probably a Renna expert, but not the actual terms and why she's doing what she's doing. So it's a learning process. You learn about your child, you learn about all these things. And so it's actually been really great talking to other families, whether it's Renna's conversations or it's even messaging people on Facebook Messenger or meeting different families at autism events and things like that. It's really interesting to talk because you learn so much more. And
Yes.
like I don't even know if we were recording when we were talking about this, but just knowing that there's so much more out there that you don't know about until somebody says, "Oh, hey, have you joined this group? Have you done anything with the Autism Society? Have you gone to the Penn State Berks Library? Like, have you done any of these things?" And a lot of people are like, "I didn't even know that was a thing. I have no idea where to start. I'm overwhelmed." So just
It
talking
is.
and
Yeah,
getting
it
out
is.
there.
That's why this series you put together, Renna's Corner, is so good. It sparks those interactions. And like you said, I'm not an academic expert on autism. I don't have any degree in psychology or sociology or anything like that. It's the lived experience, as they say, us as parents and people who are neurodivergent, that that we know about, that we eat, drink, and breathe every day.
Exactly.
And that
Yeah.
can be different than what you read about in textbooks. I think about what I read in textbooks about autism going through college and, the experience of seeing it lived out in the real world and very different things.
Yeah, I have compared stuff like this to one time I had a marketing job, and it was like a marketing job where I'm doing stuff up here, but I'm not at the actual units doing the thing. And I'd always be like, it's a great idea, but is it actually working? I don't know because I'm not in it. So somebody can tell you what autism is and what you should be doing and what it looks like and what's helpful, but they don't know unless they're
Yeah.
in it.
A
You know,
lot of people have trouble conceiving of what our lives are like on
yeah,
a
that
daily basis. Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of why I started the Instagram Renna's Corner because, well, when Renna got diagnosed with Pitt-Hopkins syndrome when she was 2.5, she got diagnosed with autism when she was 3.5, I think. And so, um, hold on, I'm losing track of my thoughts.
Take your time. Take your
This
time.
happens to me a lot. I'm always like all over the place.
Me too.
I might have to come back to it. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I was going. What was the last thing we were talking about?
Well, let's see. We were talking about learning about resources,
That's
uh,
it. Yep. Okay.
something like
So
that.
now I remember. Okay. So when she got diagnosed, I searched Instagram for Pitt-Hopkins syndrome.
Oh, yes, that's
And
it. That's
yep. And I found a mom that was sharing her son's story, and he's about 2 years older. And I've talked about this family on Renna's Corner Conversations, and I'm going to have them as a guest, her and her husband, which is super exciting because they helped me so much because I was following them and I saw their son take his first steps at like 6, I think he was. And Renna wasn't even sitting up or standing. And it just gave me so much hope. And so I'm like, I'm going to share Renna's story. And the same thing started happening to me. People were reaching out and they were saying, I love what you're sharing. It's giving me so much hope. And it also helped me to start focusing on what she could do versus what she couldn't do because I would rewatch whatever I was posting. And I would see all these things that I didn't notice, and I'd be like, wow, she was communicating. I didn't think she was because she wasn't saying anything, but she was communicating. And it just really helped my perspective. And people have said it's helped them as well to kind of like share her story and what's going on. So that's kind of the heart behind the whole Renna's Corner because there's multiple things. There's like our conversations, there's Instagram. I have a private Facebook group and the website's getting 100% revamped. She's actually working on it. She might be done by tomorrow, but she's currently working on it. So I'm super excited for all those things. But
yeah.
enough about me, enough about Renna. I would love for you to show us the sensory room because it was so cool when you sent that to me, what we could do. So I'll let you show kind of how this virtual tour works. And if anybody is near your location, maybe you can let us know what hours the library's open. Now, is it actually in the library or is it still kind of in like this different
Yes,
space?
it's in our Toon Library at Penn State Berks campus. And I'll take us there. We'll go there, teleport there virtually here on Renna's Corner Conversations tonight. So this is a website. I'll also put it in the YouTube description. I can send you the link to this, but this is the sensory room at Penn State Berks, and this is a 360-degree tour that some enterprising, awesome Penn State Berks students created. Shout out to Mitch, Alex, and Aaron tonight for creating this. And so we can actually tour it right now through our computer screens.
Oh,
So
Renna
this,
has that bubble tube with the fish. She loves that.
yes, those are awesome. And so, yeah, so the sensory room, it's inside the library. And if you'd like to visit it, anybody out there, if you'd like to visit it, it uses a reservation system. So you can email me. I'll send Brenda she has my email address that we can put in the YouTube, and you can send me an email. And we've had a group come here before from the schools. We've had individual come here as well.
Okay.
So you can email me and we can schedule a time. I can do most days, nights, usually weekends too.
Okay.
So if you happen to be a Penn State Berks or any Penn State student, faculty or staff, you can book it yourself through our website. But if not, you're very welcome to use it. Just feel free to email me some good times and I'll book you.
Okay. What if
And
you're an
now
alumni?
I, that's a good question. I'm trying to remember if alumni have booking privileges in our
I don't
libraries.
even know.
Have to,
I don't do much with like my alumni status. So even when I get any sort of emails, I'm just like, all right, on to the next. Like I have too many things going on in my life. So I don't even know if I'm part of any alumni, anything at this point. But I am one.
well, when you and Renna come, we'll have to check on the privileges you get as an alumni.
All right.
Yeah. But yeah, so here's the sensory room, and students can book it for 90 minutes at a time
Hmm.
for themselves or for groups. And the
Okay.
sensory room is open to all of the Penn State Berks students. Some universities have created sensory rooms, but they only allow people who are registered as being disabled with the campus disability office to use them.
Hmm.
Now, we don't do that. We allow any student to book it with no questions asked. And
Okay.
the reason we do that is that we don't, research has shown that it's a barrier for students to have to register with the disability office to get specialized services and accommodations. And many times students don't want to disclose um, that they have to get some kind of diagnosis to get access to a sensory room or some other accommodation at a university.
Yeah.
So we're trying to eliminate the barrier and any stigma that would go with that by just allowing any student to book it.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
another reason we do that is that sensory rings have been around, as you say, they're kind of new for the past 2 or 3 decades, have focused on people who have the classic neurodivergencies, autism, ADHD, and dyslexia. But now it's interesting, psychologists are saying that there are far more uh, people who are neurodivergent than we realize, and that people who have PTSD, for example, may be considered neurodivergent. They may process information and stimuli differently.
Mm.
We say neurodivergency. Well, that's, someone who processes information and stimuli different than the quote norm,
Right.
which I don't really believe in, neurotypical. But so, for example, someone with PTSD may have aversions to loud noises.
Hmm.
They want to be a place where they don't have to get loud noises. And now we're even some psychologists even think that people who have depression and anxiety, that depression and anxiety can adjust how we process information. They can adjust what stimuli we like. If we're depressed, we may crave more sunlight, for example, or on the other hand, we may want less sunlight than we usually do.
Yeah.
So now instead of looking at the world, and our sensory room is kind of based on this concept of neurodiversity. Traditionally, you had neurotypical people and then neurodivergent people, uh, those two categories. And now we're kind of working off the belief called neurodiversity, which is that everybody has their own unique sensory profile and preferences, like
Yeah.
fingerprints. And when you think about it, if we could all list our sensory preferences and sensory aversions. Many of us might like sunlight, Might like watching the sunset, and that might be our favorite sensory experience. Others might like a foot massage as their favorite sensory experience. Some people may hate clicking noises that you make with fidget. Others love it, just love clicking noises.
Oh,
And
yeah, that makes sense.
so our sensory room is kind of based on that, that we all have our own sensory preferences that help us focus or relax, so to speak. And so now I'll quit blabbering and kind of show the room a little bit.
I
One
just
of
want to let you know we're running short on time.
oh, how many minutes do we have left?
A minute and a half.
Oh, no, no. Okay, I'll show
Too
you
much
quickly.
excitement. I know.
Yeah, sorry, it's my bad. But this is
Okay.
our egg chair, and this is something that is an egg-shaped chamber with embedded speakers that allows people to connect to it through Bluetooth and play their favorite music or nature sounds in the chair. And students who have ADHD have said this has been a game changer as far as helping them study and things.
Wow.
As you mentioned, one of Renna's favorites, the bubble tower,
Yeah.
both a aesthetic experience and an audible experience. The sound of bubbles and flowing water really relaxes people and helps them study and
Made
concentrate
me
many
fall
times.
asleep.
Yes, me too. We also have big windows and plants. They call that the biophilic element, having lots of green plants. They say there's something magical about plant life. It satisfies people who are both hypersensitive and hyposensitive. It's like the golden mean there. Over here we have our Buddha board. This is a water painting canvas based on an ancient technique for relieving sensory overload. You paint with water using a brush